that gather into my cradle, the time has come. We go to where everything began, to the land of origin. Now!
I didn't see or hear anything.
Thanks a lot, Alvis.
Then, it's all up to you now. With us taking the role of the Avatar, Zed may well seize upon it to gain power. What we did, and all that concerns Origin, will become but a dim memory. Nevertheless, our intentions will live on, and one day coalesce again. Be it tomorrow, or in 1,000 years. Surely, the time will eventually come. I can see it, clear as day.
Our future is in your hands.
We'll be waiting, at the far edge of time. You actually did see it coming, didn't you? All that's happened.
Right. And all that will.
The only thing I see is what the flow encompasses. But your hope lives on. That much is certain.
We'll spend apart will be an instant in the flow of universal time. I know we'll meet again. So please don't be sad, Xian.
That's unusually vague, coming from you, Cosmos.
I think it is the most natural thing for me to say. That too is because of you, Xian. Thank you.
No. Thank you for everything. You've given me so much. Cosmos.
I'll see you soon.
Yes, see you soon.
I see you by the door, so just walk through, don't take too long, 'cause everything you've said, you'll find it there. In our future.
Currently, as it stands, it seems likely that Xenosaga, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Xenoblade Chronicles X are all tied together in a single narrative universe due to developments made in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and its DLC Future Redeemed. However, This also ostensibly poses certain problems, continuity-wise, seeing as certain key events and moments in these different properties are shown to contain quite a few discrepancies. For that reason, I've tried my best to patch together a unifying theory for how all of these titles may fit together, employing only the lore and facts established in the official release titles, and in a way that aims to establish maximum parsimony without hopefully the need for retcons or the introduction of new novel information. Of course, I posit this theory tentatively, knowing that the official explanation might be very different. In either case, and without further ado, here's my unifying Xeno theory, if you will. First, we must address the differences in need of reconciliation, so allow me to outline them as such, starting with Xenosaga. Humanity has successfully populated the galaxy after the disappearance of Earth. There are seemingly no aliens in the galaxy, and Earth wasn't abandoned until 2000 XXX, meaning somewhere between 2100 and 2510, when the Transcended Christ era began, and long after the events that ended Earth in either Xenoblade continuity. Then we have Xenoblade Chronicles 1 through 3, wherein Klaus uses the conduit to quote-unquote create a new universe in the year of 2000 XX, which is usually pegged as 2054, which results in the disappearance of Earth from its place in the solar system, and the subsequent creation of two new realms. This event is portrayed with slight differences between Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but it is generally the same except for the second version having some visual distinctions in designs, character hair colors as well as the details on certain structures and so forth, and the low orbit station being under attack by terrorists. There are no visual signs or mentions of aliens, and the planet is surrounded by a large ring to facilitate Klaus's experiment. After this, and last but not least, we have Xenoblade Chronicles X, wherein humanity leaves Earth in 2000 and XX, once again pegged usually at the year 54, after having been warned of an alien attack and gifted with technology from the entity known as Elma. The Earth is caught in an explosion and destroyed during this attack, though the explosion does not appear to originate on Earth, nor on any of the alien ships, judging by the visuals. There's no visible low orbit station or ring around the planet either. Taken together, it seems clear that the three different properties cannot share a universe or timeline. However, I think this belies a lack of familiarity with a series of recurring concepts in Takahashi's work, going all the way back to Xenosaga, and arguably, of course, Xenogears' perfect works. In any case, let's have a look at the concepts necessary to make sense of how the different portrayals of events converge on one cohesive narrative rather than a series of anthology titles. The fundamental concepts are as follows. We have the upper domain, known as Udo, the divine domain, in other words, accessed through the Sohar or the conduit, however you wish to name it. Then we have the lower domain, which consists of the imaginary numbers domain, or IND for short, where souls and concepts reside, and the real number domain, or R&D for short, which is physical reality as we understand it. The last concept that needs to be acknowledged is time travel, which features as acknowledged possibilities in both Xenosaga and Xenoblade Chronicles X. Now please consider the following paragraphs summarizing certain plot points from Xenosaga and consider them relative to the events shown in Future Redeemed. In order to fully stop Zarathustra, which had gone out of control due to the collective minds that were previously gathered by Wilhelm, Mary releases the seal to Chaos's power. Together with Nephilim Verum, Cosmos and Abel, Chaos attempts to bring those wills back to Lost Jerusalem, to the origin of time. He urges the rest to escape and that they have a mission to change this world. The next quote is, "A battle erupts as Jin and Cosmos fight against the Gnosis to shield Chaos. Jin loses his life and Cosmos sacrifices herself in an explosion. At this moment, space and time warps. and all UMN networks, or Umus Mundos networks, disappear. The Elsa escapes from the space warp and meets up with the Damarung. The game ends on Cosmos floating in space. Her right arm and both her legs are gone, and what remains of her body is badly damaged. As she drifts, she hears Chaos's voice in her head telling her that apparently the universe still needs them. He then tells Cosmos to sleep until they are needed again. Cosmos then closes her eyes as she drifts through space towards the sun, rising over what appears to be lost Jerusalem. Now, here are a series of postulations to make sense of the various events throughout the Xeno franchise for your consideration. Number 1. The scene of Earth being split by clouds in Xenoblade Chronicles is not the same event as the disappearance of Lost Jerusalem after the Sohar control experiment, nor is it the same event as the alien attack on Earth shown in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Rather than being 3 different tellings of the same event in need of reconciliation as such, they're actually 3 different events happening at different times, and that makes sense together if one but understands the particulars of the various plot points throughout the franchise, as well as the ongoing theme of reoccurrence in Takahashi's works generally. Number 2. The Earth seen in Xenoblade, which Klaus splits, is not the Earth in R&D from Xenosaga prior to it disappearing. Rather, that Earth is the IND version of Earth, or Lost Jerusalem, the Earth that disappeared in 2000 XXX of the Xenosaga calendar. In other words, not only are the realms from Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy conceptual IND or Gnosis realms, the Earth as Klaus knew it was as well. The only real Earth or R&D Earths that are seen throughout this franchise are the ones from Xenosaga, the post-credits scene in Future Redeemed, and the intro of Xenoblade Chronicles X. These Earths all share the commonality of not having the low orbit station and not being surrounded by its ring. Number 3. With Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Future Redeemed, we see the Xenoblade worlds being merged back together, and Earth is formed in the R&D through the power of the conduit and its avatars. Then we see Cosmos entering the atmosphere. This is post the end of Xenosaga, however, and I would go further and posit that this is back in 2000 XX, to which Cosmos has been brought back in time as a result of the space-time distortions from the ending of that series. The reason I postulate this is that if Lost Jerusalem, the converged Xenoblade worlds, reappeared after the events of Xenosaga, then humanity would already be out and about in space, and also capable of coming to Earth's rescue if and when attacked by ganglions or ghosts. Number 4. The Cosmos that arrives at found Jerusalem, if you will, is Elma, who sets up the events of Xenoblade Chronicles X. I will go into more depth about this later. Number 5. The presence or lack thereof of Earth in any given timeline should not be understood as equivalent in moment between the timelines. That is to say, simply because Jerusalem is lost in 2000 XXX in the Xenosaga timeline does not preclude it from manifesting in the year 2000 XX in the IND. We can grant this because time in the IND isn't shown to operate linearly with respect to matter shifting. For example, when the worlds of Xenoblade and Xenoblade 2 are split again at the end of Xenoblade 3, time is reset to the moment before they were merged. Similarly, we can imagine that when they're merged back together again and re-manifested in the R&D, they do so at the time they were split in Klaus's world rather than at the point it disappeared in Xenosaga's timeline. Now, with all of that out of the way, here is my proposed true timeline of the Xeno franchise. In 2000 XXX, Xenosaga's Sohar control experiment sends Earth into the IND. This is the conceptual Earth seen in Xenoblade, which Klaus then later splits into 2 separate realms. This begins the Xenosaga story, which plays out in the R&D, while the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy occurs concurrently in the IND. When the Xenoblade trilogy realms are later merged back together to form Earth again, it re-manifests in the R&D before the events of Xenosaga, from which Cosmos, or Elma if you will, just returned through the space-time distortion from Xenosaga's future, and after which begin the events of Xenoblade Chronicles X, or Cross. Consider that the game being named Cross might be because it crosses the timeline or worlds of Xenoblade with that of Xenosaga, or the Perfect Works timeline. Simply put, Xenoblade Chronicles X, or Cross, occurs after both the Xenosaga trilogy and the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy, and it is named Cross because it's a timeline or story which is a product of the events of both. Finally, here are some additional observations and predictions to strengthen this theory. First, the aliens are fighting to seize the Sohar and destroy humanity to prevent another Sohar control experiment because of the dangers of the disappearance phenomenon, which threatened the end of the entire universe in the Xenosaga timeline. Both of these alien races might initially have come from the IND as a result of the matter shift at the end of Xenosaga. This is why they know of the danger posed by humanity and why they didn't exist or weren't present during Xenosaga. And which is why, number 2 here, Cosmos, owing to her nature and insights, knows that the Earth will be attacked by aliens in this new timeline and gifts humanity with technology. The ghosts and ganglions then arrive and the Xenoblade Chronicles X story begins. Next, the weirdness on Mira is easily explained by it possibly being yet another IND or Gnosis type world, hence the presence of Nopons, why Cosmos or Elma's appearance is a mix of Mary Magdalene's, Telos's and Cosmos's, and why no one can escape the planet, and why the souls of humans don't perish even though the lifehold has been inactive the whole time throughout the story. Next we have another point that favors Elma and Cosmos being the same entity, which is that Elma's name comes from the name Wilhelmina, which means will or desire, and helmet or protection. The will to protect are Cosmos's last lines, spoken lines in Xenosaga episode 3. It could also, of course, be a portmanteau of the L in Telos, which means God, and the Ma in Mary Magdalene. Elma's initial design also closely resembles that of Telos, whereas her true form closely resembles that of Cosmos. Another interesting point of consideration is that A in Future Redeemed is likely not just a part of Ontos, but a manifestation of Cosmos in the IND during her period of sleep. Given the shared meaning of Ontos with other divine associations to the character, and shared visual design elements with Elma and Telos, the fact that Cosmos' true power is color-coded red, which is the same as A's part of the Trinity, as well as several of her cryptic statements at the end of Future Redeemed, hinting at her foresight and foreknowledge. Finally, it's worth considering Takahashi's use of numerology. There being essentially 3 different timelines or instances of the story aligns with his preference for the use of 3s, hearkening to the Abrahamic Trinity, and this extends to a whole host of other elements here, such as the Trinity processor, Udo, IND and R&D forming a Trinity, Cosmos, Telos and Mary forming a Trinity, Cosmos, Elma and A forming a Trinity, Xenosaga, Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles X forming a trinity. Seeing as Xenosaga is a trilogy and Xenoblade Chronicles is a trilogy, perhaps the next step for the franchise is an X trilogy, making it a trilogy of trilogies. And that is my unifying theory for the Xeno franchise. Hope you enjoyed. Have a nice one.